speak to you, and thanks very much for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for doing it.
So, of course, obviously, first of all, congratulations on the album. I mean, you must be so excited to get it out because on so many different levels, it means so much to get this album, and not just because your debut album, obviously, because of the legacy that it leaves, kind of from Andy, you know. So, I think it was originally meant to come out early in the year. What can you tell us a little bit about what happened about that, and then how you went about honing the album after he sadly passed away to make sure that you kind of fulfilled his dreams of how he wanted this album to be with you?
I mean, really, because the album was in the making for, well, it's 7 years, and we started the band. Well, we first started recording together in December 2016, and then we just kind of we just kept recording, and we played a few shows. But the problem with the gigs was that every time we were about to go on tour, then Andy's illness would come back, so he was unable to, go on the road. And also because he was extremely private, he didn't want to really talk about it or let anyone know. So we just focused on, recording as much stuff as possible. He would fly over from New York, come to LA, where I was based at the time, and we would just spend, all of our time in the studio. And so we had like about 7 years worth of recording, basically. Mm-hmm. So in 2023, at the start of the year, he started to get really unwell, and it was the first time it was showing physically. So at that point, he couldn't come over, he couldn't get on a plane anymore. So I was going to New York with the mixes of the album, playing him the songs, and then he would sort of just, give me his notes. I would go back and then make the changes. And then about 3 weeks before he passed, he sort of sat me down and just said, just promise me you release the album and take it on the road. So then at that point, I just sort of focused on trying to get everything finished as soon as possible, as far as mix notes and stuff, because the album was fully recorded by then. And we chose the 10 songs. He actually chose a running order and which songs he wanted on the record. The stuff that really sort of represented his sort of journey over the 7 years, because each song has a special meaning. It reminds us of times or things that went on around the recording sessions, whether it's like a walk, going for a walk and chatting, going to a restaurant or whatever, whatever it was, driving in the car, listening to songs, playlists and stuff like that. So he picked the 10 songs that he thought represented that time and the band the most. And then after that, really, I just focused on getting all of that done as soon as possible. But then, unfortunately, when he passed away on May 19th, he didn't get to listen to the complete finished version of one of the songs, Lost Myself, which I had to kind of finish the weeks after he passed. So, I just focused myself on doing that and just finish that in July, and then I think it came too soon. We were trying to, we wanted to get the album out within a year of Andy's passing, and because we just didn't want to leave it too long, but unfortunately there was certain things that were happening, whether it was distribution and stuff. It was more to do with just the stuff that we can control. So we just put it back to the most, the next available time we could get it out for.
Obviously, I know it's hard to talk about all these things, and you went through very tough times then, but I understand that Andy, while you were writing and recording the album, he was very much the opposite. He always had a smile on his face. All he wanted to do was play bass. That was all he wanted to do. He didn't want to kind of sit down and think about what was happening to him. He just wanted to write this album. So I'm guessing that all of his ailments, everything that he was going through, didn't really filter in as much as we might imagine. No, exactly the opposite, maybe.
No, exactly the opposite. Because once we closed that studio door, that was it. We were in our bubble. and he was just such a he was a really happy guy. He was really positive. He just enjoyed music so much. It was as if we'd gone back to being kids again. You'd been searching for that feeling for years to feel music like you did the first time you listened to it. And in that studio, that's how we felt. And, although there was this thing that was obviously hanging over him for a long time of this band, we're talking like at least 5 years, it was there. And so, yeah, he didn't talk about it. Obviously, we all knew. And, me and him would have like more personal conversations on the phone about it. But really, really, he just, he was just laughing, joking. It was just, you anybody who came to the studio or anyone who was around us, they wouldn't have known. It just wasn't. And he didn't. He just wasn't that kind of person to sort of dwell on something. He just wanted to get on with it. And like you say, he said that to me so many times where he'd just say, "I just want to play bass." That was it. And that's how we made the album. We didn't plan anything. We didn't think about it. We just kind of like another thing he said to me was like, let's just, record music that we'd like to listen to. And that was kind of it. So all the influences that were coming in, whatever we were listening to, on the way to the studio, and just and he had this amazing ability to give you confidence in yourself to just express yourself naturally without thinking about it, which is what he did for me. Which for years I was probably searching about how I felt comfortable as a vocalist or as a guitarist, but he was able to just let me do my thing without questioning it in a way, and just allowing me to, and encouraging me to sort of just write lyrics that came to, that were just there in my head, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, now you say that, I was thinking that. I mean, I imagine when you came into the studio to record with Johnny Marr as well, that must have been really kind of daunting. You might have felt kind of Morrissey's eyes pointing lasers in the back of your head or something. So that must have been really comforting to kind of have him.
Well, the mad thing about that was, I mean, Andy was just really chill. But the mad thing with about the Johnny Marr thing is that happened in lockdown, so we weren't able to be in a studio together.
Oh, right.
So we'd recorded. We actually recorded Andy's bass parts and most of the song. Early sort of March 2020, so we'd got the music down, and then we were both in LA as the city was shutting down, and so I think I came back to England, and then he went back to New York, and then a few days later he just called me and he just said, "Oh, Johnny said he'd play on Strong Forever, and can you send him the parts?" So we so I was never in the studio with him, so but none of us were, but he just sent his parts, and I just remember getting them a few days later and just sitting in my studio at home and just listening to Andy Rourke and Johnny Marr play together, just muted everything else, and it was beautiful, to be honest. That's the only word I can, really think to describe it. Listening to that guitar and bass together, it was just it was magical, and you could see what kind of special musicians they were, and why they had Johnny Marr is, and why they had such a huge impact on people.
Obviously, the music you said there is beautiful, but at the same time, the lyrics for you specifically in that case, I think was one of the first times that you kind of got very intimate and raw with the lyrics, no?
Yeah,
because I think you kind of drew on your own experiences, which was something that you weren't all that comfortable with right away. How was that? How did you approach that with just those? I mean, especially with those two musicians playing in the background for that song, and then how did you approach later songs, having kind of tackled dealing with your interior self and kind of sharing it with people?
Well, with Strong Forever, the lyrics and vocals were already done. So it was, I'd wrote the lyrics, and before Johnny Marr guested on
before the music, right?
Yeah, so it was kind of there. Well, most of the music was it was at demo state. So then I just, sang it, and then Johnny Marr added his guitar actually after the vocals were on there. With sort of all the other tracks, and there's so many songs that we recorded over that time. It was just, I suppose, you can sometimes get to a stage in your life or whatever that you're older maybe, and you're just comfortable with,
Yeah.
or you'll just say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I was like, well,
You don't
people
really
that
care.
just speak to
Yeah,
anyone on the street. Yeah, I know what
yeah,
mean,
you just don't care. You don't really care. So it's not about trying to fit into something, a style, or impress anyone. It's just being as honest as you can with yourself when you're writing, and that, as a songwriter, that's actually really therapeutic. Just
sure,
getting
getting
it
off your
down.
chest, you're getting on
Yeah,
paper.
getting that
Yeah.
off your chest. Yeah, and that's always been so important to me. Just as a musician, picking up a guitar at 12 years old, and in my first band at 13, it was just, I feel so lucky to have been able to pick up a guitar at that age, at that time, because it's always been like the thing that no matter what's going on in your life, you pick up a guitar and just play,
Hmm.
and write a song. So it's kind of, yeah,
Hmm.
it was quite comfortable when you're in there doing it, and just just expressing yourself and writing whatever comes to mind, because I find that that's the most raw stuff, is the most honest stuff. So
Hmm. I was watching a few interviews earlier of both of you when I went in the earlier days, and Andy was in various interviews. He said that he described the music as fresh, now very current. But obviously, because you've been recording over the course of like 6, 7 years, tastes change, styles change, and the album's got various kind of genres and styles on there.
yeah.
What were you kind of bothered about creating a cohesive album, or were you more bothered about just getting 10 decent tracks out there, or were you trying to create 10 tracks that kind of were cohesive even though they were in different genres?
Yeah. I mean, I think as we were recording, we weren't really thinking about it. We were
Right.
just recording stuff. So we recorded. There were 17 songs put forward for the actual album. So then we got it down to 10, and it was the songs that we thought worked well with with each other, and Andy thought that they told a story.
Hmm.
And that's kind of that's just how we did it. We really didn't think about it, and that was kind of just, again, liberating. You felt free playing and recording music, not thinking about how it's going to sound at the end. And then when we finally put the album together in I think it was like March 2023, when we finally sort of decided on those 10 songs. It just flowed. It worked, and everything, and it didn't take as long. We already knew the track order in a way, and we just did it, and it just worked, and that was it. And Andy was really happy with it, and so we were like, cool, let's just go with that then.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was that talking about, you mentioned there's kind of like inspiration, and you'd share different music that you'd listen to. Obviously, there was a bit of an age gap between you.
Yeah.
I read that you kind of, I think you're about the same age as me. You were into grunge, like I would
Yeah.
imagine Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all that kind of stuff. Alice in
Yeah.
Chains. All of a sudden, Britpop came along. How did you work? I mean, I understand that you got kind of a very good shorthand between the two of you, but because there was like 15 years age gap, did that kind of create any not difficulties, but any kind of clashes in how you wanted to approach certain songs?
No.
Or no,
Yeah.
nothing.
No. There was no clashes. There
Yeah.
wasn't a single argument. There wasn't kind of. It was just quite. Yeah. It was just really easy to work together. It was the greatest working relationship of my life anyway, as
Mhm.
far as making music. And there was no, because we were both into like a lot of the same bands as well. So we
Sure.
were really into, we both love the Stones and Bowie, and the Kinks, the Beatles, whatever, going back to the 60s, going back to the 70s, Neil Young. So we connected on a lot of that stuff. And Andy was sort of very, because he was so young when the Smiths broke. I mean, he was into everything that came through the 80s, and then obviously all the 90s stuff as well. And I remember even taking him to see Guns N' Roses, I think, when they reformed. So which was pretty funny. But he had such a open mind when it came to music. There wasn't really any limitations from either of us. We just kind of did whatever sounded good, and that was it. But no, you didn't notice that at all. Yeah, he did feel like an older brother, and he was very calm, very laid back, whereas I was maybe a bit more hyper. So so it was he was able to kind of deal with that in the right way. So
yeah, I think I read that there was a bit of meditation going on behind the scenes, before some other gigs and stuff, just to calm you down. Is that right?
Yeah, he did, not me. No,
he did that.
No. He did that because he was, he was sober. He was like really zen, kind of at peace. And I think that's the thing. As soon as you become sober and suddenly you find yourself doing, I guess rock and roll or being in bands and stuff, you realise, the Dutch courage, where it's gone, So it's kind of but that was because it was so important to him, and so he was just so I remember him getting on the headphones, and he had all these frequencies that he'd kind of tuned to and stuff that kind of musically as well, so he just he was just really chilled all the time and just happy.
Yeah, you mentioned also the Rolling Stones, that you both shared a lot of love for the Rolling Stones. I was reading a Guardian review about you, and they described you as a latter-day Jagger.
Right, yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, yeah. I don't really know what to say about that one because I've known that. I remember the review, it was years ago, but maybe vocally a little bit and some songs and stuff. Because they were a huge influence. I think it's just in there somewhere, and Keith's guitar style, is something that I've based a lot of my sort of early playing and sounds on and stuff like that. So somewhere between Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, as far as influences, probably their influences are quite heavy in there, I guess. So
I know you're a big influence was Oasis. I was reading a song that defines the teenage you would be Supersonic. So of course I've got to ask you to chime in what you think about this reunion, which is a bit crazy, I mean, it's great kind of the ticket sales and all these things that have gone on since.
I think with the ticket sales and stuff, I think that was more to do with the the ticketing companies and stuff.
Sure.
And I think bands don't really get involved in all of that, but obviously that got out of hand, and I think that was all to do with the ticketing company. But I think it's great because it's brilliant for guitar music. I think it'll inspire maybe and hopefully a whole new generation of bands and kids who are getting into playing instruments again, and I think that's really good, especially for the for the UK, because it's been such an important part of our musical history, and producing great bands that are loved all over the world. It's one of the things that people associate the UK for around the world, and that's something I've noticed. Is great music, great bands.
Definitely.
And I think culturally, I think that's kind of maybe been lost a little bit, but I think that's just because the time we were living in, or it may have been a lot difficult for kids to buy guitars and buy instruments. It's easier to MC on a mic or whatever. It's a lot more. It doesn't cost as much. But I think hopefully this has a knock-on impact on the next generation of artists that come through, and that'd be great to see if it does.
Because I mean, there's just been so overcrowded with dance music and kind of rap music, and I'm not against all that stuff, but
me neither.
I miss the rock and roll bands that we used to have in like the 80s and 90s. And thankfully, like we've had Snow Patrol's #1 at the moment. We got Shed 7 just recently as well.
Yeah, Shed 7. Yeah, Shed 7 are doing great. Yeah, it's brilliant to see. I think it's good. Yeah, I think it with Oasis reforming, that will probably 2025 will be a good year for rock and roll.
I hope so. And the festivals as well, because the festivals are going down the kind of dancey route as well, which is it's not really my cup of tea, but yeah.
It's good to have a mix, you have the dance tents. Yeah, sorry.
But you are actually a DJ now. You do DJ around the country now.
I used to, not so much at the moment, but I used to do a lot of DJ gigs. But they were sort of like, playing playing songs really more than anything.
Playing the music
Yeah,
you like. Yeah.
So you know, wherever I was, I'd have to obviously adapt to the club I was in, but it would be versions of, you know, big tunes that I was into. So that's kind of that's as far as I went with the DJing side of things.
Obviously, mate, you've got this album coming out now, and obviously because Andy's no longer with us, this is probably the debut album and the only album. No, is there any? Have you thought about continuing this project with the musicians that you recorded the album with, or maybe creating something new after that?
I think really it's been such a long build up to get to, you know, just get this out. That's honestly the only thing I've been focused on, just because that's what he wanted. So get the album out and do a load of gigs. That's kind of, you know, that's the only thing. You know, the times I started thinking about anything outside of that, you just begin to sort of kind of, you know, it just brings up a lot of different thoughts. This way it's just focused on like, right, okay, we release this album and do a load of gigs, and that's it. And you know, if that's all we do, then that's you know, that's kind of we've done what we said we'd do, and you know, that's it. If we play more gigs, I mean, we've got other songs. I mean, we recorded with Andy. There's at least, I mean, there was the 7 songs that are not on the album, and then there's another, you know, group of songs that were never finished as well. So you never know, we might release them. But we've got this documentary we were working on for 7 years, so we were shooting that, you know, all the behind the scenes stuff and following us to the studio and kind of you know, just loads of kind of fly in the walls stuff. So we were actually going to release that at some point, maybe, you know, at the end of next year or something like that. And then there's a live album we did at Abbey Road as well, in Studio 2. So we've got that. So there's a bunch of music that, you know, that Andy wanted out that we'll release, but the main thing is just get the album out, and then, you know, if the other stuff comes out, then you know, we'll see.
And I know I mean, I think it was yesterday or the day before, you played like a really stripped back version to kind of promote the album. How did that go? Because I mean, that must be kind of bittersweet. It's great to play these albums, but it must kind of remind you like the early demo stage of some of the songs, maybe.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you know what, Howard? We're really bad at doing strip back. So so we said we'd do strip back.
Something else completely different now.
No. So we had to say we'd do strip back because the shop thought we'd blow the roof off if we plugged in full band and cranked the amps up and just did it. But that's exactly what we did. So so we just we set out the full band and just did a, you know, played 5 songs. But it was great because it's Denmark Street and you got all these amazing instruments around you and the history of it all, and you know, so yeah, it was cool. It was really cool doing that with people, and yeah, everyone went away happy, which was good.
And the fact, just to finish off, I mean, the fact that you've not been able to play a lot of these songs live with Andy, well, not just with Andy, but you've not been able to play them live, full stop. So that must be kind of really kind of refreshing and gratifying for you to see people see them. But at the same time, how are the reactions being? I mean, there must be great reactions, but it must be kind of great to finally see them out in the world and see people react as you're playing them live now in front of an audience.
Yeah, you know, the reactions have been really good so far, but I think you know, the first gig we did at the Scala, which was the first one we did without Andy, because we played, the last gig we did with Andy was in July 2019, so it was kind of like he, you know, so we'd got to play at least, I think it was at least 6 of the songs on the album together live, and that was probably, you know, that was a really special gig for us, and even more so now that it was the last one we did. But the weird thing was, building up to Scala was just the fact that he's not there playing the songs, and you sort of just kind of don't know how you feel about it until you go on stage, and then it's weird because the music, it's as if he's living within the music, so you kind of like, I just felt him there every time.
Yeah,
and every time I go on stage,
around and he's right with you.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, you know, and you just feel him, and he gave so much to it. He gave so much, you know, playing wise, just emotionally, and just kind of everything he dedicated really over the years when he was going through so much. that it's as if every time, you know, we play it, he's there and he's a part of it, and you know, for that reason, it kind of made me think, yeah, we'll do as many gigs as we can, because it just feels right and it feels good, and that's, yeah, that's all it can be, really. So
Brilliant. Well, listen, Kav, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being so open about a really difficult subject to talk about.
cheers,
And I wish
Howard.
all the luck in the world for the album release, and all the gigs go down really well.
Thank you.
All right,
Cheers,
hope to see you
Howard.
again sometime soon. Take care of
All
yourself.
right, take
All
care,
right,
mate.
cheers,
You
bye
too.
now.
All the best.
Cheers.
Bye.